Hello, I am Radagast, and this is Mystic Brew, Social Justice Warriors. It's new to me. Um, this is really something I've never quite. This is something I've never really quite um, knew about. I remember seeing the acronym SJW, and I thought it was a dating term. Thought maybe it meant single Jewish woman. And but then I started watching a lot of the coverage after the election, because before the election, again, it was on the periphery of my normal the things that I'm normally interested in. And I mean, I certainly paid enough attention to know who I thought was a really bad idea. Let's put it that way. But then I started watching a lot of the coverage, a little excited, and I could see there was a lot, especially with the protests I saw. It was like, wow, there's something going on out here. And then I noticed, okay, so then I start seeing this term SJW. So of course I Googled it and found it was a social justice warrior. Now I'd heard the term social justice warrior, but it kind of sounded like, all right, that sounds like a decent thing. Who doesn't? I'm all about human rights. So social justice, I guess, sounded like it was within the realm of human rights. I didn't realize it had nothing to do with human rights. Human rights being, like everybody, like, there's equality, like mistreatment of anybody is the wrong thing. I didn't realize that there was I didn't realize it implied that there were special categories. And that we get where we're going by looking forward. It's just like that until we invent the time machine, we can go back and really redress the past for real. The only way we can redress past mistakes is by recognizing them and moving forward and not getting stuck anywhere. But watching some of the the people, I guess, who responded to the election of Donald Trump, I saw things that I fortunately had passed me by. I've for the past almost 34 years, I've lived in small towns. No, actually more than 34, because I moved out of the Bronx when I was 30 years of age. I'll be 64 in a month. And the Bronx, we had Fordham University at another point, but it wasn't like the Bronx wasn't a college town per se. So I've never really lived in a college town surrounded, and I thought that colleges is where you went for higher education. I didn't realize it had completely skipped blown past me what's going on in colleges and what is passing for higher education. Now I can see why people like Joseph P. Farrell call Common Core common to the rotten core. Once again, I mean, I don't, my own child, my own 20-year-old son, graduated high school, and and he wasn't saying anything. He seemed to be, he seemed to be doing fine. But then again, he has my genetics, which means he's real intelligent, and also the other thing we share in genetics. I might have mentioned this sometimes. Again, I don't really like labeling. What the other genetics he and I share is a certain neurological, a certain neurological setting that some guy, some psychologist named, or I guess a researcher by the name of Asperger's, named a certain condition that he identified in a certain section of the population, and it's called in the autism spectrum. Now, having grown up with it and not even finding out about it until actually that my son was quote unquote diagnosed with it. And that, and of course my mother, who I recognized also as having that same kind of unique neurological perception of the world, and they kind of like not really caring what other people think, because most of the people that you're surrounded by are not, or just let's say again, my mother also had a really, really high intellect. So it's really kind of hard to take social cues from people you respect them as human beings, but you don't necessarily respect them for their intelligence. So it's really hard to take, cues from people who are clearly not as smart as you. So, and if this sounds, I mean, again, it's kind of funny. That's where I kind of helped my son, because I hadn't seen him since he was 5 months old. And then when his mother reconnected me at 12 is when she made me want to read some stuff about this condition called Asperger's, which I had never heard about, because she didn't want me to call him a retard. And right away, that almost should have rung a bell with me, because I grew up being called a retard consistently. For the fact that I was a little different than everybody else. I mean, I was in the smart classes. It was fine. I was being called by a retard by the same people I went to smart classes with. And so when I finally got to meet him, he was 12 years of age, and I'm like, okay, so they've told you got this condition called Asperger's. Here, let me tell you how we handle this. And I did. And right away, he came out of the special classes and he graduated with a regular diploma, because I took him out of being special. I mean, he was under the special needs class. It's like, I mean, we're special, but not like they're calling us special. And I taught him how to navigate the normals, as I've done fairly well most of my life. And I play down my own intelligence and speak to people, in a kind of a normal fashion as much as I can. And then if I find somebody smart, then we can take off and we can fly. We can go into the stratosphere and, fly with the eagles. Because I love people. I love all people. I really don't. People are who they are, and good people are good people. You don't have to be able to have an extensive vocabulary to be a good person. Actions do speak louder than words. No matter how many multisyllabic words you could throw into a sentence, the actions are far more important than your words. And then, of course, if you speak words that you don't carry out with actions, who cares what you say? But anyway, so I'm sitting here watching these videos, and I'm seeing these people, and it was, for me, it was like zombie apocalypse. It was really like these biological units with programs in them, because there was no dialogue. I should have wrote down some words, but the words I heard the most. I mean, I heard people trying to engage these people in dialogue, and I heard like parts of sentences beginning, but then there were words like homophobe, racist, sexist, a misogynist. I mean, basically, rather than language of conversation, I was just hearing a lot of, in many ways, I guess what might be normally called ad hominem. But I mean, and it was everybody. I mean, I would see people moving along, trying to engage in conversation, and go, I can't talk to you because you're, and then this string of titles would come out, and there was no dialogue. And it was really amazing to me, because I'm used to, humans like to communicate. And I saw, I guess that's now what they're talking about, trigger warnings. You have to realize I'm 64. I'm a hermit. I'm almost an ascetic. I mean, especially in recent years, thank God my testosterone levels dropped, allow me to live alone and enjoy it. But I'm just blown away by what I'm seeing. What is passing for higher learning. I'm seeing people like this really outspoken, very provocative gay man named Milo Yiannopoulos. And he's actually doing a tour of college campuses. And on his bus, I mentioned, the name of his tour is Dangerous Faggot. Talking about a guy like this telling we haven't got time for your politically correct speech. And so I'm seeing him in these campuses with these people who are supposedly there for a higher learning. And I'm watching him having really intelligent conversations, of course, peppered with his very impish behavior, but still he's obviously an intelligent man. And then I see the dialogue that comes at him. It's not a dialogue. It's just, it's a form of word vomit. And also, another thing, when anybody gets emotional, it's usually a time for take a chill out, because anybody who's ever, like if you ever even watch people on news shows, if you can stomach them, if they get plugged in, that's another term, plugged in, where their emotions kind of become the dominant riding factor rather than the intellect. And when it comes to conversation, you should be riding the wave of your mental, or your third chakra, your mental energy. You should know how you feel about things. And if something happens in the course of conversation, you kind of go, oh, I feel like that. And then you turn it into like intelligent words and you communicate those things. But instead, a lot of these people, it just seems like everything is an emotional trigger. And the only thing that wants to come out is an attempt to communicate, I guess, how they feel. But there's no communication. There's just this endless spiel of the same words over and over again. And then, of course, occasionally, and if you interrupt their spiel and ask them a question, like, can you explain themselves? Shut the fuck up. I mean, it's really amazing how many expletives. I mean, again, I don't consider myself a potty mouth, but like a lot of other people, we use words like shit and fuck all the time. Who cares? As long as you don't use them to garble the communication, they have their place. But it was, I mean, I never saw so many of just the same non-dialogue words. I mean, just as again, it's these same words over and over again. This phobe, male privilege, rape culture. I mean, it was endless, and no matter, there was not a thoughtful person. I didn't see one person having a dialogue. And even if they started out calm, it was always the same. Maybe there's 20 words, maybe there's 10. Some of them, I still don't know I know cis, I guess it's CIS. I guess that means straight. I haven't Googled cis. If somebody cares to put in a comment what cis stands for. I mean, there's this whole language that is apparently connected to people's emotions or sense of entitlement. I just don't, I mean, it's really wild. It's like, I think I don't know how much longer I can stay in this milieu. I feel like, I don't know, like this video, I'm saying something about it, but I'd like to, I guess, everybody is entitled to their own opinions. And all I can say is, if what I see in these, auditoriums of 200 people or 100 people, and the really lack of communication, all I could say is, when these people have to go out into get jobs, I don't know how long it's going to be able to be sustained. I don't see what these people are learning as skills, other than the skills to interrupt other people who might be congregating for some reason other than social justice. Man, I mean, I'm really stunned by it. And then, of course, now I like humor. A lot of the times I talk, I don't get to show my humor as much as I do. In person, I actually joke quite a bit. And that's also because I have people I'm talking to, so I have people to bounce off of. When people are giving me, and I mean, it's not nasty humor. It's it's humor in the subject where we laugh together. And so here I am. I'm talking to a camera, and so I don't get a chance to hear anything you might have to say to me. So I can't riff off you, so to speak. Where when I'm with people and I can riff off of them. They can say something. I can turn some things into a pun. I can say one of my absurd, retarded, Aspergery type things. But it tends to make people laugh. And, I have a thing. I'm not going to, where was I getting with the humor? So apparently there's now this whole market of people who are, kind of taking videos of social justice warrior material. They let them say share their thoughts. Now in these videos, there actually is dialogue. It's peppered with these terms, but it's done. Again, people aren't bad. They really aren't. I do see something that I think is pernicious happening in the higher education system. And I think it does start a little bit, with the lower education. Like I said, I saw it start in the 6th grade. I might have spoken about this, but I also have new viewers. And I got about 5 new subscribers last week. Thank you very much. And if you like this and want to kind of follow this, it makes it easy to subscribe. Obviously, these days, if you subscribe, you're subscribed. And if you want to get an email that I put out a new video, you got to hit that little bell in between, right after the word subscribe. um, but these people are now, kind of doing all of this. I probably lost my thought, but that's just how I go sometimes. But there's apparently this whole bunch of videos now being made upon these people, sharing their thoughts. And again, they're coming from their place. And I was talking about education. And it was in the 6th grade where you no longer knew where you stood scholastically. Up into the 5th grade, I knew where I was. We had, you were in the 1st grade, 2nd grade, whatever. And then we had a number after that. So if you were in, if I was in the 5th grade and I wasn't 5'1", I was in the most, the highest learning of the 5th grade. And I was in more ones, 1-1, 2-1, no, 1-1, 2-2, 3-1, 4-1, 5-1. And then 6th grade, even though I was in 6-2, I didn't know it. I had to find that out. It's kind of almost like hidden, because now apparently this is when they weren't going to let you know where you stood scholastically, because if you were maybe in a 6-3 or 6-4 class, it might hurt your self-esteem, rather than just telling you where you stood scholastically. And that if you want to be in the higher scholastic classes, you might have to work harder. I mean, some of the reasons I got in some of the 2 classes, because I didn't hand in homework. I was always rebellious. And again, rebellious just because rebellious in the sense that I didn't fall into things that didn't make sense to me. I'm getting all these high marks on my tests, and then I get a lower mark, didn't hand in homework. So you know what it means? It means I wasn't following orders. I wasn't being I wasn't training like a proper little corporate cog for the future, where even if it made no sense and it didn't affect my real performance about what was expected, like in taking a test in the case of school, you still got penalized on your actual performance, your score, which would be your grade, for not following orders. And again, one of the thing about the unique neurological structuring that is called Asperger's is that you see bullshit. I mean, bullshit is so obvious, and you don't, and we tend to also, I have a very deep spiritual part of myself, and you kind of know what's right and what's wrong, and there's kind of cosmically, spiritually, right, and then there's this stuff that is borderline demonic in some cases. And, if you're not with the demonic agenda, you rebel against it. It's healthy to rebel against demons, in my opinion. That's how you end up with a less demonic world. You don't give in to the demons. So this is like a whole new thing. I just thought I'd make a really short video. I thought it might amuse some of my subscribers that I didn't know what an SJW was. Had no idea that apparently I guess you can come out now with a master's degrees in these various studies that give you all these words and some of this ideology. Because there are ICs, people speaking, and they've been inculcated, they have been given agendas. And in many ways, this is almost like weaponization of people's psychology. You've heard me say the New World Order, and if you know anything about the history of education in the Rockefeller papers that were written in the early 1900s, where they don't want an education system that gives them really good thinkers, which is why logic and reasoning and some of the earlier trivium type things were abandoned. They wanted a nation of workers, not thinkers, and because a nation of thinkers is very dangerous to people who want to control you. And so it was already beginning in my time. I mean, it started in the early 1900s, but it was a slow progression. But now I'm seeing what I could consider almost the culmination of this. And part of it is in some of the protests and the behaviors I'm seeing in the election. I have never seen, I've never considered myself, quote unquote, belonging to one party or the other. But I did see, the last Bush, Junior Bush, I did see him as a dim bulb. And actually in that election that he got elected in, I voted for Ralph Nader. something I regret these days. And that, I mean, in that day, he seemed like the most reasoned person. I had already grown to dislike Bill Clinton because, well, I'd seen the fruits of what he had done. I found him personally likable, but I realized that this is a psychopath who had crafted this really Bubba, kind of, like any this very. I mean, he was quite likable, which is which means he was a highly skilled psychopath. And trust me, there's no question that couple, that Clinton couple, those are two deadly psychopaths. If you think I'm overblowing it, he was president when we trashed Yugoslavia. Yugoslavia was deadly to a lot of people. The man is deadly. And he hasn't been looking so good lately. Good riddance. So I just thought I would share something I speak, and I consider myself a very well-informed person, but apparently I am still a social retard because I had no idea what was going on in the world. And I thought I might share the joke that's there. If you notice, I'm not really here to trash anybody. I don't really like trashing anybody, except for the psychopaths. Glad that I'm really, really happy to trash them because they're dangerous. I'm not, I would like to quarantine them, just like, a cobra is a dangerous snake. I'm not for killing cobras, but I am for avoiding them. I just, it's good to know your vipers, and it's really good not to let them bite you. And I just think, and part of the dismantling of the New World Order and the globalist agenda is knowing who the poisonous snakes are. And that is the one real fruit of the trigger that we call Donald Trump, because it has triggered a lot of people. Now, the young people are just programmed. This has been part of their education. But the people who set the education up, the people who set up those kinds of studies, those are the cobras, or the poisonous vipers. I have nothing against cobras, really. I just know that you don't want to be bitten by one. And so I'm just, if I had no other positive things to say about Donald Trump, and I probably could find a few other things, but I'll just say the one thing that to me is undeniable. He wasn't supposed to get in. He is not NWO. He doesn't owe anybody any favors. He did it with his own money and with the people, support of the people. And I see some sociopathic tendencies in him, but I don't see any psychopathic. Sociopaths are capable of empathy. So psychopaths are not. Any signs of empathy are nothing more than an actor who's learned to play their part really well. And when you're in high stakes games like they are, and making the money they are, and as dirty as they are, it's in your own best interest. Psychopaths are exquisite actors. So he is triggered. The election of Donald Trump has triggered people. And so you have the triggered humans who are part of programming, and then you have the psychopaths who just know that having somebody like him in is really dangerous for them. And the one thing, psychopaths don't have any empathy, but they have huge self-preservation instincts. So these are really interesting times. I just thought, again, I'm just sharing my own finding out about social justice warriors, how devastatingly retarded our higher education system is, and largely on purpose by the psychopaths who want people who are largely incapable. If you don't know anything, I get to hear a lot of stuff from some of them, and also I'm in Global Mission to Peace. The ambassador gets to talk to lots of the top agencies, and he personally knows people who support the anti-population agenda. Personally knows them. He doesn't agree. He's always trying to change their minds, and Global Mission to Peace is one of the ways that one of the tools he's using to try and go, you see, you're wrong about people. So in a lot of ways, I see that the creation of such functionally useless people, again, having real skills, this higher education is really producing people with very few skills. Abilities. It's not like they can't go in an office and sit somewhere. How many offices you can build? When do you get to who's going to build things? And people go, oh, robots. Well, the way it's set up right now, it's not like the robots are going to earn the corporation's money, and they're going to take some of this really great profit, since they don't have any employees to pay anymore, and put it aside to a fund that would allow people to, to at least, if not pay them, at least give them a place to live where they don't have to work to get paid. Anyway, it's a whole screwy system. That's another thing. I meant this to be a short video, but this is kind of like almost anything you're talking to is part of a tapestry. I pull on one string, and the other ones that are there just all kind of are attached to each other. But this is my short little thing on social justice warriors. I've also been exposed in recent weeks to something else called MGTOW, MGTOW. Stands for Men Going Their Own Way. And it's a response to what they're calling third wave feminists. I'm going to make a separate thing because it's really involved. And it's very interesting. And even that, there's like kind of the thoughtful people who just say, it's time for us to, just kind of keep to ourselves, kind of like I have for years. But I didn't realize that kind of the life I was pursuing actually had this whole movement philosophy. For some people, it's a philosophy. For me, it's a personal philosophy. But apparently for some, it's a movement. And I think had a MGTOW come after me. I don't know, it was one of the more thoughtful people who are part of the Men Going Their Own Way. And I said something thoughtful. And I have an icon for Mod Wiz 125, and it's me holding a pipe that since got busted in my mouth. And apparently I said something too thoughtful. And every movement has its kind of bots. So one of the insults from the MGTOW group for a man that isn't almost like a woman hater is a cuck. I don't even know if they might know what it means from being cuckolded, which is an old term. I don't even know if they know what the word cuck is, because so many people, they get loaded with these terms like shill. But I was called a cuck, and then he says, I bet you wish that pipe in your mouth was a dick. I thought that was hysterical, because I'm seeing, again, I'm like, here I am, I'm going, oh, I understand certain parts of this. I understand that there's been like a kind of, it's like a lot of frustration, men's custody issues, alimony, all kinds of things. All right. And of course, certain parts of the population, because apparently white males and men have all this privilege, any injustice visited upon them apparently is some kind of revenge, or they deserve it, or we don't want to hear you whining type of stuff. Okay, I understand. I understand all this. It's not that I agree with it, but I don't have to agree with people to understand them. Okay, there are people who I think are really lost and wrong, but I understand them because I hear the background psychology and the other programming that goes there, and it's very easy. Empathy makes it really easy for you to step into somebody else's body or their shoes, get a reading on them, step back out into your own place, and you understand them. That's what empathy is. All right. Empathy is not a place to linger in any more than you have to stick your finger in a tub for more than a few seconds to know whether it's hot, cold, or something like that. There's no need. Empathy is a reading. It's a data set. So I can understand these people, even if I think, it's like, ooh, man, that's freaking scary. But anyway, so it's just so funny that here I am thinking I'm commenting on a place where, it's like this men, there's kind of these men who are speaking about some of their grievances. And again, some of them are just almost like, a lot of you didn't grow up with the Little Rascals, but they had the Women's Haters Club. Okay, so that's a joke. If you remember the Women Haters Club, where it was Spanky and I guess Alfalfa were the main guys, and then Darla gets sweet on Alfalfa, and Alfalfa goes with him, and then he breaks the rules of the Women's Haters Club, and I think Spanky even hit with a paddle. It's all You know, this is goofy stuff. But I mean, those shows are like over 50 years ago, so I can excuse a lot of people for not being familiar with that stuff. But it was just so funny, you know. Again, I think I'm commenting on, you know, on a thing, and again, it's one of the more thoughtful. This guy's The Metaphysics of MGTOW or something like that, and he actually, it was a video he'd made about the other portion of MGTOW that's like women hater type things, and you know, of course, I'm going with for me, my personal God, and I think the God of this planet is, in fact, has a feminine energy, Sophia. And when even my first video was Gaia is our God. When I say our, I mean human earthlings. If there are other people from other star systems and they look just like humans, for me, Gaia is not their God. Because, you know, God is fractality. So when I speak about Sophia or Gaia being our God, it's a fractal of the big overall creator, but there's fractalities, and that's how the universe works, at fractal and on fractals. And so you get to a place in being where there's a certain fractal God consciousness, and the ancients did identify, Sophia means wisdom, and it is absolutely the most suppressed theological concept on the planet. The Cathars had a Christianity that had Sophia within it. They were wiped out. Man, women, and child, and their books were thrown on the pyres that they were burning them at. I mean, I'm talking about extermination. This wasn't like, oh, you guys have to calm down. No, they killed every single one of them and burned all the information. Okay? So you just need to know, I mean, like, and anything that is that vehemently stamped out, when you look at just how kind of creepy the global controllers are, you would have, to me, that's almost like proves how valid it is because of the vehemence it was attacked with. But again, it's not important. I mean, and I find a lot of people I'm agreeing with, even some of the people who are going after social justice warriors in their own lampooning kind of way. And I used to read the National Lampoon. I've always enjoyed that kind of humor. Many of them are atheists. I don't care. I mean, you know, again, your behavior isn't what's going on in your head. It's what you really do with your hands. And so I don't. That's why I kind of live a hermit's life, because many people get attached to things and they're not mobile. There isn't a lot of mobility for them, and I you know, live and let live. And most of the people I know are really quite wonderful. I go out and I see a lot. You know, I have a rich and wonderful life. I really do. I love my life, and I especially like the close to being a hermit. I never have an argument with myself. My guitars never give me an argument. It's really sweet. Anyway, I guess I'm going to end this here. And gee, you know, I never really thought about the fact that maybe, you know, some of my audience is atheist, which is fine with me. And maybe when I end up saying, you know, God bless you all, maybe some people are going like, oh, would you not do that? So I don't know. But so I love you all. How about that one? I love you all. And see you next time.